Oh, there we go. Nearly found the mute button. He's getting there, folks.
Hello, now we're live. Hello and welcome to the Tonight Show podcast with me, Charlie. Yes, a little technical glitch there before we went on air, but yes, hello and welcome tonight. Trying out for the first time tonight without the headset. It is surely hot wearing that headset, so for a different look tonight. But yes, the final one of summer. I've got a busy weekend ahead with holiday plans and that, so I'm moving the show to tonight. An unexpected last-minute switch, but we've got a lot to talk about tonight, especially for London being the scene of a lot of the news this week. I'm joined by Labour Party supporter Zach Chambers to run all latest news. Hello, Zach.
Hi, Charlie. Hello, mate.
Right, let's ask all the questions now, because the first bit of news we're going to be talking about is ULEZ. Yes. Yesterday was the announcement of Sadiq Khan's cash-grabbing money scheme to all Londoners. Yes, the extension of the ultra-low emission zone, or ULEZ they call it, to all 32 London boroughs. Now, it came into effect yesterday. We've already seen huge protests across the capital, Bromley especially, where there's been a massive protest against Sadiq Khan's ULEZ expansion. Now, obviously, what does the rules mean? Well, we're going to go over them right now for you. Pretty plain, if you ask me. It's a motor. As a petrol head myself, I own a car, and I'm sure Zach does as well. But we're going to talk now about how this works with how your vehicles have to be checked. Let's go on and find out. So here we go. Now, the ultra low emission zone will operate 24 hours a day and 7 days of the year, except Christmas Day, December 25th. Now, this is all calls TfL have updated this. Now, if your vehicle does not meet the ULEZ emission standards and it isn't exempt, you have to pay a £12.50 charge. Now, that will include, wait for it, petrol cars over 16 years old and any diesel car that is older than 6 years old. If you're over them, you will be paying the fine. So any car that's sort of registered, diesel car 2016, roughly 15, 16, petrol cars I think it's up to 2006, 2007-ish. So yes, this will apply to cars, motorcycles, vans, and specialist vehicles weighing up to 3.5 tons and minibuses up to 5 tons as well. Oh my God. We are in for a hell-raising evening when it comes to ULEZ, because we know this zone, and I've spoken about it a lot on my social media this week. I know I'm going to get my opinions out tonight. We're going to hear from Zach about what he thinks as well. But this is a scheme that will affect and impact Londoners massively. Businesses, small businesses will be affected. Households will be affected. Cost of living crisis is going to get even worse now. And most importantly, many people have swapped their cars out, especially if you're a diesel owner. You are swapping your car out as a £2,000 scrappage scheme hits you now. And also van drivers especially have been hit very hard. Loads of van drivers have been very angry this week. And one driver on the news the other day swore about Sadiq Khan. We cannot repeat his words, but one van driver told him to sod off. So, yes, that's how the members of the public have reacted to this. Zach, what's your take on the London Mayor Sadiq Khan's decision to expand the ultra-low emission zone? Do you believe that London needs to have cleaner air?
Well, it's finally happened, I guess, after months of arguments and a by-election loss potentially caused by this ULEZ expansion. It's actually finally happened. Sadiq Khan has said that it was going to go ahead on the 29th of August. And it's actually happened, to some maybe the delight of clean air campaigners, to the disappointment and fury of those who do not want expansion at all to be happening. It's finally gone ahead anyway. It's didn't happen. Are we going to be talking about this in a couple months' time? I think it'll die down, quite frankly, in my honest opinion, towards what in the future. It's not going to be really as, a key, I don't think, of a talking point as I think many people expect to be. But yeah, the ULEZ zone has now been expanded. It's the ultra low emission zone. So if you are, it's prevent air pollution and CO2 emissions from heavily infesting London City and everything like that. Very good reasons for doing that. I can understand why you want to do a clean air zone, and reduce the possibility of deaths by air pollution. Very fair enough. Previously, the ULEZ zone was in the inner sort of the greater areas, the big city area of London. Should we put it on the way now? But now, thanks to Sadiq Khan and the London Assembly, and to be fair, from some encouragement before from Grant Shapps, who originally sent a letter in 2020 saying that there had to be areas that need to be funded to make up the TfL deal, including ULEZ expansion. He seemed to forgot about that. The ULEZ zone is now in all of London, not just the Greater London boroughs and anything like that as well. So if you live in areas such as Enfield, Barnet, Harrow, Hellington, for example, Richmond, Kingston, Merton, Sutton, Croydon, Lewisham, Bromley, Bexley, Greenwich, Barking, Havering, and even the outskirts of Essex as well, which some of it does actually fall under the London borough, especially if you live in stuff like North Ockington, or need to be as well. Then you are now going to be faced with the wonderful prospect, or some cases the horrifying prospect, of having a ULEZ zone in the area as well. Now, if you do not comply with, obviously ULEZ means ultra low emission zones. 9 out of 10, according to the Mayor of London's office, of those who own cars in ULEZ zone are already compliant. So which means there's 1 in 10 of them that are not compliant. However, if you're not compliant, you will have to pay a £12.50 daily charge to be able to access London's London Borough. Now, obviously, there's legitimate reasons for why people criticise this. The cost during a time of cost of living crisis, during a time of high inflation, wages not rising in line with inflation. That's sort of why rising thing, and people not getting well-paid jobs. Why those that use the London commute every day, it's very costly to them, and it's going to cost them even more money as well. That's why there's been a lot of opposition to this, simply because it's too costly for some people and it's very expensive. The timing of it is obviously very interesting, I have to say. Maybe it could have been delayed a year, but obviously the mayor decided to stick his teeth in and say that actually it was a good idea to go ahead right now rather than delay it further and further, and then can say it's controversial from the offset as well. I suspect this is more the fact that he's doing this now has more election winning chances than for Sadiq Khan than anything else, possibly. But in fairness to him, he stuck to his guns. He was going ahead with it anyway. He said it was a difficult decision, but obviously it does save lives in terms of clean air. Now I can understand why people say this is too costly, and I get their point. Also, there's the benefit of saving lives as well if you're in clean air. It's been very controversial, as you probably know. There has actually been protests since yesterday from its introduction. We have seen people destroy ULEZ cameras, and even some Tory-run councils are refusing to implement, put signs up for ULEZ zones or anything like that as well. I personally think that's a bit pathetic, if you ask me, because you know, if you're on a ULEZ zone and you're not got any signs, you're still going to get fined. If your car's not ULEZ compliant. I mean, the amount of fines out there if people are not going to comply are going to be probably in the range of hundreds range as well. But if you don't have a ULEZ compliant car, you are eligible for a scrapper scheme. It's about £2,000 or £3,000, and it will also include benefit as well. Those on benefits or really low income as well. So there you will get some financial gain out of this if you trade in your car for a ULEZ compliant one. I imagine my one is ULEZ compliant, although I never know that because I never go into London these days. But yeah, it's not VW up, by the way, in case you're wondering as well. But yeah, it's all been expanded to the whole area of London. Most of it, should I say, pretty much 99% of it. I mean, there's this few grey spots on the map here that I look of that's not in the ULEZ zone. It still is part of the London boroughs, but not in the ULEZ zone as well. But most of it is now part of, pretty much all the London boroughs are now part of ULEZ. I have to say, for those that are smashing up cameras and looting, I find this completely inappropriate. Whatever you think of the ULEZ introduction and expansion, in the out of bar suburban areas, I have to say I don't agree with smashing cameras up. I mean, you're just about to just stop oil for that. Since if you're smashing equipment up that are supposed to be used, you are basically creating criminal damage, and you supposed should be fined or even be sent to jail for that sort of thing. So I understand the protests. I understand people celebrating its existence for the fact that it, reduces carbon dioxide and provides cleaner air. But I also understand the cost terms of it. And that's why there's been a lot of protests outside number 10, London Hall, the London Assembly, near the mayor's as well. A lot of ordinary people going out protesting against this ULEZ change. The Prime Minister's made his view clear that it's the wrong decision. The Labour leader also distanced himself following the by-election defeat and everything like that as well. But it's a difficult one, I think, for me, because I can see both sides of the arguments on this, and as long as that people get the financial support, hopefully they can take advantage of the scrappage scheme, but also at the same time as well, it's crucial that we do save lives if we're going to operate in clean air, because the dirty air can cause death. So I personally think, in my view, it's difficult, but I also suppose for the long term, it may benefit Londoners living in the area.
Okay, honestly, I have to say, I mean, obviously that's Zach's opinion, and we obviously on my show, free speech is always meant to be heard. We will have to try and remain impartial as possible. We've given our views. Let's hear what the public have to say now. I've got this report from Talk TV, which reacts to members of the public viewing ULEZ. This is what one of them had to say, including this one who called Sadiq Khan. He's an absolute sod. I hate him. Have a listen to this.
I think it's totally wrong. 12.50 a day isn't going to change anything. It's not people who can afford cars or vehicles or whatever. It's people that are struggling, and it's just going to make people struggle even worse. Businesses around here and that, but we all know that people just can't afford it, and it's always the people at the bottom that are going to struggle. So
you're a tradesman. What's it like for other tradesmen in the business?
It's hard, it is. Yeah, I mean that's it. It's getting harder. It's getting harder on the people, working class people that struggle every day. So,
what's your message to the mayor?
I can't say it on camera.
You can.
He's an absolute sod. I hate him. We need to get him out. That's it.
Gary, what's your thoughts on ULEZ being expanded?
I think it's disgusting. It really is. Like they're talking about pollution, like in this area, when I've had planes flying over my head for 57 years. it's just a total joke. And like I say, most of the vehicles that they're saying, because it's coming up on the telly, all cars over 16 years old, it's rubbish. It's about the emissions that come out of the car, not the age of the vehicle. But like I say, like my mate's mum, she's got to get rid of her car, £2,000 scrappage scheme. What is she going to buy with £2,000? You can't buy a car that's compliable with the £2,000. So it's going to put people in debt. I've got an old boy who lives up the road from me. He's getting a new car, but he's not ready. He can't go shopping now.
This works van ULEZ compliant, but you've got a car that isn't ULEZ compliant.
I have to drive to work. Like I said, if I was to drive to work in my car, it takes me 30 minutes. If I was to use public transport, 2 hours, 37 minutes. Yeah. Which one would you do?
But then you've got to pay that £12.50.
Yeah. Or I can cycle, it'll take me about half a day.
Nick, what do you think about ULEZ being widened out today?
Well, I'm not very happy with it. I'm not happy with the way it's being done. Look, I'm all good, and I'm for the clean air concept that everybody wants, that's talking about around the world and the whole thing. Yeah, we're all good for that. But I don't think this is about the clean air issue. I think this is more about a money grab. It's all okay for me to pay $12.50 and go and pollute the air. But if they really wanted to have clean air, they'd have the cars off the road. Tell us, yeah, go and drive, and then just pay £12.50. So I'm totally against that, yeah.
What's your thoughts on the mayor?
Well, I wish I could vote tomorrow. So I'm going to have to wait till the next election, mayor election. So I wouldn't vote him again.
What's your thoughts on ULEZ expanding?
Terrible. Yeah, my son just lives inside this area. He has to go out to Denham. Then he's got another job in the afternoon, and it's going to cost him something like £75 a week to do that. So we work 6 days a week, and he's a mile from the area. And to go there by bus, it's going to take him two buses and a half a mile walk when he gets there, and a quarter of a mile walk to a bus. Anyway, so it's going to put another 2 hours on his day, whereas it takes about 15-20 minutes to get to work.
Wow. That is the public's fury to this scheme. I mean, well, as I said there, 15 minutes to work, okay? And then you're going to scrap your car. It could take you 2.5 hours on public transport. What? 4,000 deaths a year, according to Sadiq Khan. And there's only been, like, what, one death certificate being read for them. I don't understand this. I mean, Zach, this is the final question before we move on and talk about Notting Hill. I mean, you've just listened there to all the public's reaction to this. What is your message to the public? And do you have a message to Sadiq Khan about this potentially costing him, well, his position as mayor at the next election?
I'll address number one. Right, that's number one. I think to the public, I get there's legitimate concerns about this. I think your concerns, I think the concerns are legitimate, and I think they should be listened to. They must be heard. There are those who probably don't want to change their car, and understandably so. And public transport isn't the best way to do it, so they can understand the concern from that perspective. Number two, on whether Sadiq's position is safe. I mean, yeah, pretty much he is safe. I mean, the protests, you think about it for now, they're if you think about it, there's not going to be election until May, or I think, yeah, May. And then no one's going to really vote him out at this rate until that point. I think as well, it's also likely the Conservatives is not a very don't do brilliantly in London-centric areas in London, and they've lost the mayoral race the last couple of years as well. I mean, they did introduce a character like Boris Johnson, which sort of propelled them to victory. But Susan Hall is definitely not as strong as a candidate as, you know, Sadiq Khan probably would be for Labour in this instance. And that's probably, you know, if you look at it from a national perspective, they're probably everyone's weakest choice. But to be fair, I personally think, in my view as well, and if you're looking at it, is that I think for the public, you know, this may die down eventually. The anger is understandable, but this may die down. You may realise things may not change that much. But the second time as well, I have to say, they're asking, is that this is not going to fix Sadiq Khan's re-election chances, I don't think, because it's just going to. I think it's all going to be forgotten about in a couple of months, and I don't think there's any need for him to resign at the moment.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting because I think the public are going to turn on him, and I have to say as well, this will affect so many households. You know, like the poorest in society are going to really suffer. And as I said, Zach, like van drivers especially, like van drivers, diesel people. I mean, like how is, like, the question is, okay, before like, you have a van driver who's got a, like, for example, who owns an old Renault Traffic, an old Vauxhall Vora, whatever, one of them vans that's over 6 years old. It's a diesel vehicle. What is the chance they've got if they have to pay £12.50 to drive in the zone, and they're spending like £40 a day, £75 a week, £3,000 a year? Like, financial wise, for construction workers, how are they going to afford to keep running their vehicles in that?
It's a legitimate point, to be fair. And the trouble is as well, like, I guess there's a little more like diesel-made electric vans these days, but I don't think there's enough to be in production really to be able to adequately cover the cost. So there is a concern for that point, and I understand the white van man's driver concerned really on that one. To be fair, and their concerns are legitimate, and they should be heard.
That's all we're going to say on ULEZ. Please comment down below, guys, what you make to ULEZ, the ultra-low emission zone expansion to all 32 London boroughs, including Upminster, Havering, Romford, Barking, and parts of Surrey as well. It's just crazy. Please let me know what you think about it. Moving on now, staying with London. Yes, London Mayor Sadiq Khan is getting a lot of chat tonight on my show. we're moving on now to the Notting Hill Carnival. Once again, where there has been yet more arrests at this event. But not more arrests. It has been an event that has seen problems. I have to say 275 arrests were made across the 2 days of the carnival. 165 arrests were made on Monday in possession of range offences, including possession of offensive weapons and assaults on police officers and possession of sexual offences as well. A couple of million attended the carnival, to put it in context. Incredibly, 75 of the incidents on officers of Patek, even sexual offences taking place, is this week. 8 people were stabbed. 8 people. I wish none were stabbed. I mean, Zach, the second year in a row, the Notting Hill Carnival has been a complete disaster. And I have to say, for police officers being targeted, this is just vile, isn't it?
Yeah, I have to say, I mean, it's pretty appalling, first of all, that there's been any sort of attacks at Notting Hill Carnival. Notting Hill Carnival was supposed to be some sort of excellent, vibrant, diverse festival celebrating culture and history of London and everything like that as well. And that's really good. It's important we see that sort of event happen. I mean, there's nothing wrong with an event like Notting Hill Carnival to celebrate diversity, inclusion, and history, and celebrate London overall as well. It's a Caribbean event as well over in Kensington. It's a really good event, and you know it's diverse. The celebrations that the people that go there are brilliant as well. You know, British African Caribbean, British Indo Ultra Caribbean. It's one of the most iconic events that happen throughout the year, and it's great to you know be part of. But there's always these thugs and people that decide to ruin it all, and especially what's happened recently as well. People will hold knives as well, who just really ruin the whole experience for everybody as well. This year's edition, 308 arrests. That's a lot. And that's not an acceptable amount. That's far too many. There's too many idiots out there doing that sort of thing, doing stuff as well. 57 for assaults. Not acceptable. I don't know what's causing all these assaults anyway. Who is starting this? Is a gang of mobs and youths or whatever they're doing, but it's just not acceptable whoever's doing this. They're ruining the whole experience for everybody who behaves legitimately and has fun. It's just appalling in what they do. And it's just every year it's becoming more and more frequent. It's just unacceptable whoever's causing these sorts of points as well. But what also is hard to say as well is that 8 of them have been those that have been affected, have been hurt in stabbings. And again, 308 arrests, 57 for assaults, 8 for stabbings. Stabbings at the Notting Hill Carnival Festival. It's just not on. What sado is going around with a blade in them and just stabbing people? I mean, I don't know what causes the start of these things, but come on. Celebrate Notting Hill Carnival for its culture and the positivity, not just go around, become part of a mob, ruin people's day by stabbing them and starting violence. It's just I don't get it. I don't know what's going through this, and it's just sad this continues to happen. And you know, it's just people being put up in danger by these others who are just not behaving and don't deserve to be there. I mean, the festival itself is great. Don't get me wrong, but it's just been ruined by yobs and morons that decide that going around there with knives around is just not going around. It's just God. It's not acceptable. Let's look at some of them. The rest. 198 made arrests on Monday. Alleged offences include possession of offensive weapons, assault on police officers, drug possession, and sexual offences. It's just sad that people resort to doing that sort of thing as well, and it's just sad, really. And I can't understand the thought process of people wanting to go through a carnival and wanting to stab others. It's just really not on.
It's vile, Zach. I have to say. I mean, I last year a rapper got stabbed there. This year, it's thankfully I don't think any major artist that was performing did get stabbed. But his knife crime is now out of control. And again, Sadiq Khan has got to look at it. I mean, there's been talk of this event, that this event should even be abolished. I mean, wow.
No.
I mean, that's as far as I want to say. I mean, look, I'm not going to stand here and give my take on the Notting Hill Carnival. We've got a big Pride event this weekend in Basildon. Again, where I'm not going to give my opinion on this show. But there is going to be a big Pride event in Basildon on this Saturday, where I'm expecting heavy police presence. Roads will be shut around where I live. So please take note if you're travelling around Basildon this weekend of road closures, especially where Gloucester Park is and the town centre. So, yeah. But it's just interesting. I mean, for a start, violent crime should not be allowed. I mean, it's unacceptable. Please comment down below, guys, what you make to this, because clearly something is not right. Now, moving on now to the next part of the show. Also, I just want to say I hope everyone in Florida is okay, because I know there's a hurricane that could be heading your way. But we'll come on to that in a minute, and we'll kind of tie this in with the Republican debate last week. Now, we're going to talk about that because there's been a lot of news on the first primary debate for the GOP candidates, the Republican Party nominee in America. We've had Vivek Ramaswamy, Ron DeSantis, Mike Pence, Chris Christie, I think Rick Scott. There's loads of them. I can't name all of them off my head, but there was a debate last week on Fox News between all these candidates. So we previewed the debate last week. We now heard the debate. And Zach, who do you think were the strongest performers in this debate? And do you think who were the ones that were the weakest?
Well, if we're talking about appeasing Republican voters, and probably one to the base, Vivek Ramaswamy certainly did that job very well to the Republican base, if you're looking at it from that sort of perspective. I mean, the stuff he said about Russia, Ukraine, domestic policies, it very played to the base and played to Republican primary voters. So I expect on that front, he was pretty much the winner in that area, I think, as well. Obviously, Mike Pence had the record to defend as being vice president, so he had experience as well. Obviously, the ones that probably wouldn't agree too much would be, if you think about it, the ones that the Republican voters probably don't want. And probably Asa Hutchinson and Chris Christie are the ones that are most critical of Trump, we know, on the stage. But it felt like a debate that debated around Trump as well in many instances. They were asked a question about whether they would support the president if he got indicted or convicted of a felony charge and anything like that. They all put their hand, most of them put their hand up, apart from Christie's and Hutchinson. Mike Pence even put his hand up, to be fair, on that one as well. Old buddy still lurching to him in some ways as well. But yeah, it was just the usual sound bites as well. Mostly it was slagging off President Biden, talking about Republican policies. There was a few blows exchanged, especially Chris Christie, Vivek Ramaswamy as well. Mike Pence also got a few ones in there as well. I mean, they were pretty much just slagging off Vivek Ramaswamy, although pretty much won the base, I think, as well for the day. I think as well was one that got mostly criticised the stage as well. I think Chris Christie called him some sort of tribute act or something. I can't remember what it was. He called was some sort of slagging off thing anyway. But yeah, it was quite feisty. It revealed Republican divisions fully on display, I think, as well, of how to take the party forward. And yeah, the only one that would really won out of that was Donald Trump, really, because he wasn't there. He's got a massive lead. He decided to do Tucker Carlson interview instead. And he then got sent into jail the other night as well. So all the attention was brought on to him anyway. So yeah, even though the debate didn't feature Trump, it was pretty much about Trump regardless anyway, and all that sort of thing as well.
Here we go, guys. I have something for you which might sound very interesting. Here it is, which was released the other day via social media. Would you like to look at it? Because this is Donald Trump's mugshot when he went into jail. So here we go. I'm just going to show you a picture now. This is officially Donald Trump's mugshot. There it is with the police. I mean, Zach, what do you make to this photograph?
I'd be scared looking at that. It looks like about to hit someone. I mean, it's a mugshot. It's a very serious mugshot. At least not smiling like some of them. Some of them creep me out when they smile. But he looks a bit old, freckled, and yeah, it looks like he definitely murdered someone out of that. He really does look like a murderer, someone who committed crimes. I can see it. I know Joe Biden did a comment on it the other day, saying that he actually looked really beautiful. And he looked really, really beautiful and pretty or something like that. I mean, I know that was sarcastic, but still. It's not a shot that I would want to be associated with. He's obviously been selling merchandise out of this. But yeah, he does look like a criminal in that one, and probably will come out of it being a criminal. Maybe a convicted one. Who knows? Trial dates have been discussed and everything like that. Well, it looks like we're going to get a March trial for the January the 6th, 2020 election interference one. We don't know about the Georgia one yet. I mean, the judge wants a fast, speedy trial, maybe in October potentially as well. Some of them have requested speedy trials, which have been granted. And yeah, there's a long way to go in Trump's legal problems, and it ain't ending anytime soon.
Right, well, let's play for you the highlights from this Republican debate. And this is where all the candidates sparred over several issues. Have a listen to this.
Our country is in decline. This decline is not inevitable. It's a choice. We need to send Joe Biden back to his basement and reverse American decline.
You all signed a pledge to support the eventual Republican nominee. If former President Trump is convicted in a court of law, would you still support him as your party's choice? Please raise your hand if you would.
I mean, look, Joe Biden has weakened this country at home and abroad. Now is not the time for on-the-job training. We don't need to bring in a rookie. We don't need to bring in people without experience. We need to bring...
Do you believe in human behavior is causing climate change? Raise your hand if you do.
Look, we're not school children. Let's have the debate. I mean, I'm happy to take it to start. Alexander, as somebody that's handled disasters in Florida, you got to be activated. You got to be there. You got to be present.
I've had enough already tonight of a guy who sounds like ChatGPT standing up here.
This is exactly why Margaret Thatcher said, if you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman.
Can't we have a minimum standard in every state in the nation that says when a baby is capable of feeling pain, an abortion cannot be allowed?
Don't make women feel like they have to decide on this issue when you know we don't have 60 Senate votes in the House.
70% of the American people support legislation
But
to ban
70%
abortion
of the
after a
Senate
baby's
does
capable
not.
of experiencing pain.
You know, Nick, I wish you well in your future career on the boards of Lockheed and Raytheon.
I'm not on
But
the
the fact
boards
of the
Lockheed
matter,
and Raytheon, and you know,
Boeing came off of it, but you've been pushing this lie. You've been pushing this lie all week,
You want
Nikki.
to go and defund Israel? You want to
Okay, let me address that. I'm glad you brought that up.
Go and give you
I'm going to address each of those right now. This is the false lies of a professional politician. There we have it.
Your watch,
So the
you
reality
make
is,
America less than you have no foreign policy experience, and it shows.
and you know what? There's a foreign policy experience that
The most pressing need of the American people from a national security standpoint is our southern border. It has led to the death of 70,000 Americans because of fentanyl.
When after 9/11, we had the global war on terror, and guess what? We protected the border at the same time. You can do both.
But the American people deserve to know that the president asked me in his request that I reject or return votes unilaterally, power that no vice president in American history had ever exercised or taken. He asked me to put him over the Constitution. And I chose the Constitution, and I always will.
That's the reaction. There's the first Republican debate. I'm sure there'll be a couple more of them coming very, very soon in the future. Now it's time to talk sports now. We're firstly going to review the footy action whilst we're here. So it's time for the football review on the Sport Briefing now. Let's go over some results. Obviously, we've had Premier League action last week, But obviously tonight we also have reactions from the Carabao Cup as well. That is also midweek action coming on as well. And Champions League, loads of football action if you are honestly here. Doncaster lead, Everton and Chelsea are also taking part tonight as well in that, regarding the Carabao Cup as well. But the main Premier League results from last weekend are now in. Let's have a look at the Premier League results. So, let's go. In Premier League results, for the last weekend, we have... Are you ready? Let's go. Chelsea 3, Luton Town 0. Bournemouth 0, Tottenham 2. Brentford 1, Crystal Palace 1. Arsenal, Fulham 2-2. Manchester United 3, Nottingham Forest 2. Everton 0, Wolves 1. Brighton 1, West Ham 3. Sheffield United 1, Man City 2. Burnley 1, Aston Villa 3. Newcastle 1, Liverpool 2. Zach, what do you make to the latest Premier League football results?
Yeah, it's been an eventful weekend, shall we say, as well, in the Premier League as well. Let's start off with Friday night. Chelsea, out of form recently, I have to say. Mauricio Pochettino looking for revenge results. 3-0 win against Luton Town, who've been away last week or so, because their stadium have not been open. Obviously, open this time. The home stadium has not been ready yet. So they played away at Stamford Bridge. They lost 3-0 as well. I mean, it was a pretty predictable result. Chelsea, the better team of the night. We hit goals from Raheem Sterling and Nicholas Jackson. Pretty much gave them the 3-0 victory. 17th, 68th, and 75th minute for Chelsea on that one. I mean, it was a pretty dominant performance for them as well. Bournemouth Spurs. Spurs 2-0 victory over Bournemouth. I mean, the Spurs were the better team also throughout as well. 57% possession, although there was a bit of times where Bournemouth nearly got back into it, to say, looking at it. But there was goals from Maddison and Kulusevski that did it for Spurs as well. Very good result for them. Let's go to the 3 p.m. matches as well. Brentford, Crystal Palace, 1 London derby. 1-1 draw on that one, actually. 1-1 draw. It was Joe and Asim and Kevin Strayed with the goal scores for Brentford and Palace, respectively, as well. A very even match on that side of things as well. Although Brentford got 60% possession, they had less shots on target than Crystal Palace, who were better in the counter-attacks area as well. This one was probably the most exciting one of the other exciting ones. Arsenal 2, Fulham 2. Not a great result for Arsenal, we have to say. They were held to draw by Fulham. Andres Pereira was the one that got the goal in the very first minute for Fulham, and then it was a bit of a comeback for Arsenal, because Bukayo Saka got a penalty and scored. Eddie Nketiah scored, and then during the match, Joe Palama in the 87th minute managed to draw it for Fulham, and they held Arsenal just to a single point as well. Calvin Bassey was the one that got red carded for Fulham in the 83rd minute as well. So unlucky for that. Unlucky for Fulham. That's going to be a couple of matches banned, I'm afraid, for Calvin Bassey for a red card tackle as well. Let's go to the other matches as well that happened on the day. Manchester United 3, Nottingham Forest 2. Man United came from 2 goals down to win 3-2. It was an incredible comeback, but nevertheless, goals scored from Teo Anawala winning volley in the first 5 minutes of the match. Joe Royal got red card in the 67 minutes, but then the Man United started their big comeback with Christian Eriksen, Casemiro, and Bruno Fernandes, a kick in the teeth for Nottingham Forest, who did so well at the beginning, only to give it away as well from that one. Everton not winning against Wolves, 1-0 loss for Everton. We're a dreadful start to the season overall for Everton. No wins in any of their matches as well, bottom of the table. As well. It's a dreadful start for them in that result for 1-0 victory for Wolves as well. Brighton, first time they've been beaten by West Ham in a long, long time. This is West Ham's best performance against the Seagulls for so long. 3-1 victory. And it was all caused by great goals from James Ward-Prowse, Jared Bowen, Mikel Antonio. A great set of scores for them, and a great bit of counter-attacking, I think, for West Ham overall throughout the matches. Pascal Gore scored in the 81st minute. But overall, despite the fact that Brighton had 78% possession, it was the counter-attacks and the shots and targets that really did it for West Ham. in that one as well. Sheffield United 1, Man City 2. This is a Sunday match as well. Sheffield United managed to give it draw it level at one point towards the end. And Man City with some brilliant comeback football. It was Rodri, 88th minute, with a beautiful strike to win it for Man City as well. Burnley lost 3-1 against Aston Villa on the Sunday, and then Newcastle lost 2-1 against Liverpool in a very car crash second half, I have to say, for Newcastle. 1 up, cruising, and then down to 10 men for most of the matches for Liverpool as well. And Virgil van Dijk, red carded, charged as well by the FA for insulting officials. He'll be given a couple match ban, I think, for that one. And then, 10 men Liverpool managed to win it in the 93rd minute thanks to Darwin Núñez masterclass, scoring both goals as well. Anthony Gordon was the second one as well, was the one that scored the other one for Newcastle. Next week, we've got Premier League action. Luton Town's first home game in the Premier League is against West Ham United. That's on Friday night at 8 p.m. And then the 12:30 game is Sheffield United v Everton. 2 struggling teams at the moment. Can one of them will get recover enough to get their performances on get the start of their season really off on the 4th match day as well. And then the pick of the 3 p.m. games as well. Man City, Fulham at 3, Chelsea, Nottingham Forest at 3, Burnley, Tottenham at 3, Brentford, Bournemouth at 3. Brighton and Newcastle, the 5:30 game as well. Can Brighton recover from their poor result against West Ham on the Saturday last week? And then the big match of the weekend as well is on the Sunday with Arsenal taking on Manchester United. A massive rivalry there, and it'll be on Sunday at 4:30 as well to watch. Crystal Palace v Wolves is going to be the game on Sunday as well at 2 o'clock, and so is Liverpool v Aston Villa as well. And Rangers, by the way, looks like they're going to go out of the Champions League and in the playoff stages. They're currently losing 5-1 to PSV at the moment. It's 7-3 on aggregate as well. And it looks like Rangers are on their way to Europa League group stages, not the Champions League one as well. And Carabao Cup action, sorry, I'm losing a bit of my voice here. I don't know why. At the moment, Sheffield United, Lincoln City are on penalties. Burnley are ahead of Nottingham Forest. Doncaster Everton is 1-1 at the moment. Chelsea with a 2-1 victory over AFC Wilmston. I'm going to go to the other matches as well because I believe Spurs lost against Fulham on penalties yesterday as well. 1-1 draw, but a 5-3 victory on penalties for Fulham as well. Bournemouth is through, Palace is through, Leicester through as well against Wolves winning 5-0 against Blackpool. Wrexham knocks out by Bradford City on penalties as well. Cardiff is through, Stoke through as well, Brentford through on penalties as well. And it's still going on the Carabao Cup side as well. That's the Carabao Cup fixture as well. But we've got another big weekend of football ahead to look forward to, including Arsenal v Manchester United on the Sunday.
Lots of action for football on the weekend. Now it's time for motor racing, where we are going to be talking about the return of the Formula One racing after the summer break. And Max Verstappen has equalled Sebastian Vettel's record. All he's got to do, if he wins on Monza on Sunday, he will break the record for the most consecutive wins ever held by a driver. That could be 10. And he mastered the changeable conditions. At one point, it was raining. They all came in and pitted for intermediate tyres. It then dried up. Then they pitted again right towards the end of the race, which saw a red flag late on because of carnage down the field. And it was because of Guan Yu Zhou having a retirement, I believe. The Zhou Guan Yu brought out the red flag for going off, but the weather just got really bad. They done it. Max Verstappen winning the race in 2 hours, 24 minutes. Fernando Alonso got his first podium since the Canadian Grand Prix, finishing in a fantastic second place for Aston Martin and also stealing the fastest lap at the end with 19 points. Pierre Gasly with only, I think, his third ever F1 podium, finishing third for Alpine, probably their best result of the season, if I'm honest. One of their equal best with Ocon's podium at Monaco. Sergio Perez was third on the road originally, but got a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. He finished fourth. Carlos Sainz, fifth. A pretty dismal weekend if you're a Ferrari fan, because Charles Leclerc didn't finish the race. Unfortunately, Lewis Hamilton, recovery drive from 13th to 6th. Lando Norris got caught out by the weather to finish down in 7th. Alex Albon, a strong result for Williams in 8th. Oscar Piastri, 9th for McLaren. Final point was Esteban Ocon in the Alpine. Zach, what did you make to the Formula 1 Dutch Grand Prix from Zandvoort?
Yeah, it was very, very eventful, wasn't it? It was all over the place in terms of action as well. Very, very eventful with what's happened. Yeah, Max Verstappen victory again for them, though. Nothing can stop that boy. It was completely chaotic, though, from the fact that the moment the race started, I feel, it started raining. Everyone started changing tyres. It's affected some of the front runners as well. The likes of, Russell, Norris got really caught out in, especially things like that as well. Caught out with the weather changes and going to tyres at the wrong time as well. And then it started drying up, and then we got a massive patch of rain towards the end, causing a red flag because it was raining so hard that it was impossible to go race around the circuit. It was dramatic overall. Max Verstappen survived it all, though, to win another race in a row. I mean, incredible. 9 in a row now, I think this is, as well. And it's a pretty incredible job that he's done as well. Alonso, great race for him. 2nd position. He'll be pleased with that one. Pierre Gasly in 3rd position. Obviously took advantage of the conditions and the weather overall and finished in 3rd position. A great result for Pierre Gasly. And I think that's his first podium for Alpine as well. And it's what a way to do it as well, especially there as well with the conditions as well. Sergio Perez, it was all right 4th position for him. I think he'll be okay with that one. Carlos Sainz 5th. Lewis 6th, Lando Norris 7th. I mean, got caught out by the weather at the beginning as well. Alex Albon, an impressive 8th position. Could have been 5th if it wasn't for some of the tyre choices and staying at the soft tyre early on during the wet conditions. Could have been best for him. Oscar Piastri 9th as well, and Esteban Ocon was 10th as well. You can see Lance Stroll finished outside in 11th position. As well. And if we go down just a little bit so we can see what's going on here. Lance Stroll is 11th. Nico Hülkenberg 12th. Liam Lawson, who replaces Daniel Ricciardo for this weekend and for the next race as well, because Daniel Ricciardo suffered broke his wrist in an incident in FP2. His hand landed on the steering wheel, stuck on the steering wheel. That broke the wrist. And Ricciardo is out for a little bit now. Liam Lawson finishing 13th position, a very impressive result for his F1 debut. Thoroughly well done to him for battling the conditions as well. Valtteri Bottas 14th, Tsunoda 15th, Magnussen 16th, George Russell retiring, unfortunately, with issues as well in 17th. Zhou Guan Yu obviously crashed out as well because it got caught out with the aquaplane conditions. Leclerc with mechanical issues as well in 19th, and Logan Sargent, who got caught out early on in 20th position as well. Wow. This weekend, we're looking forward to the Festival of Speed, really. It is the Italian Festival of Speed in Monza, one of the fastest circuits you can get on the calendar as well. It's long. It's only going to be 53 laps, but it's one of the fastest races you're going to see all season long as well, with the speed, the ability of what's going to happen there as well. It's going to be a Red Bull favourite circuit, but can McLaren catch up as well? They've been really good in the fast circuits as well. Can they manage to catch up and pull a surprise over the weekend? Well, we don't know. But expect Red Bull, McLaren to be the ones to watch, I think, going into the weekend as well. Obviously, this is a home race for Ferrari in many ways as well. I mean, they're looking for good form and need to be looking for good form recently as well. But yeah, this is the last European race of the season. And obviously, Monza is one of the fastest on the circuits. This is going to be very interesting to see how this goes, especially whether Max Verstappen can break records and get another victory in a row and beat Sebastian Vettel's consecutive victory in a row.
Yeah, well, that's all the Formula 1 action. This weekend is the Italian Grand Prix. Now it's time to review NASCAR. Now, I did watch the highlights of the last race, which I believe was the Coke Zero 400. It was at Daytona. That's all I can say. It was the last race of the regular season. And we had a major heartache for Ryan Preece. And can I just say as well, it looks like, thank goodness, he's got out of that alive for a start. It was a horrible accident. One of the worst NASCAR crashes I've ever seen for a long time. Probably the worst since Joey Logano's flip a couple of years ago at Talladega. I just want to say that should not... The Gen 2 cars are certainly flipping a lot more than... We saw Harrison Burton have a flip in the first race, so at one point. So it is pretty scary seeing crashes like this in NASCAR. So yeah, not ideal. But let's go over the results now for the Cup Series, if I can get them up. Here we go. Here's the standings. In the end, Chris Buescher held off a couple of wrecks to win the race. Brad Keselowski was second, Eric Almirola third, Chase Elliott fourth, Joey Logano fifth, Alex Bowman sixth, Kyle Busch seventh, William Byron eighth, Kevin Harvick ninth, and Corey LaJoie there 10th. Now, obviously, playoffs. What does this mean for the playoff standings for this season? Well, let's go over them right now for you. With the playoffs, this now means, and we're going to show you guys now the final results and the final standings for the playoffs. So here we go. All these drivers will now enter the playoffs. Obviously, it's done on race wins. Obviously, if 16 drivers win a race, it's decided on points. So, here's the drivers that will be making the cut for the playoffs. William Byron, Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, Chris Buescher, Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Ross Chastain, Brad Keselowski, Tyler Reddick, Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, Michael McDowell, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. will make it in on points from what I read up as well. Kevin Harvick, Bubba Wallace, I believe they are the final
playoff drivers
that are going to make it into the chase or the playoffs, which will begin, I believe, next week roughly as well. Zach, what do you make, obviously, to that race in Daytona and also the final playoff standings?
Yeah, it was quite eventful, the race in Daytona. First I've got to say, Ryan Preece, thank God he's okay, because that was one of the most scariest flips I've seen in a long time. It's very uncommon, I think, for this generation of car to have flips like that. I mean, it's not, these cars are designed so they don't flip and do barrel rolls 10 times over and over and over, what we've seen of Ryan Preece. I mean, you expect that from like Gen 4, Gen 3 cars to be flipping and barrel rolling at 200 miles an hour, uncontrollable speeds. But something like this with the Gen 7 cars, I did not expect. And Ryan Preece, I think what happened was he just got turned around, got so far, was going out driving so fast. The roof flaps deployed, but they didn't work in the way that wasn't expecting it to. And he got onto the grass. The worst possible area is to get onto the grass. And then he started barrel rolling. I think it was 10 times he barrel rolled up in the air. Thankfully, he landed on his the right way, where the car would normally is, on sideways, not on his roof. But nevertheless, and gladly, he was okay. Although he did get to go to the hospital to get medical check, but thankfully he appears to be recovering now. I don't know whether he's going to be racing this weekend or not at the moment, but nevertheless, I'm glad to see he is.
I'm just going to show you guys what the image that we found. I mean, look at that. That is the example of how this crash happened.
Yeah, wow. I mean, that is a sight to behold. That is not a car just being launched by a rocket. That is a rocket literally being turned over in the air. I mean, look at the barrel rolls upside down through the air. It's a spectacular sight to watch if you saw that as well. I mean, glad Ryan Preece is out of that, because that was a one wobbly and quite dizzy experience for Ryan Preece as well. It was really bad. But yeah, the winner of the race was Chris Buescher. I think that was Chris Buescher, if I'm correct.
Yes, Chris Buescher won the race, yeah.
Race for him. Congratulations to him as well. He finished ahead of Brad Keselowski, finished second. Eric Almirola was third, Chase Elliott fourth, Joey Logano fifth, Alex Bowman sixth, Kyle Busch seventh, William Byron eighth, Kevin Harvick ninth, and Corey LaJoie for an impressive 10th position as well. Now, what that means is that the playoffs is now set, and congratulations to Bubba Wallace Jr., who was the final driver to race his way into the playoffs based on points. Well done to Bubba Wallace. He is in the field of 16. He will be on the field with William Byron, Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, Chris Buescher, Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Ross Chastain, Brad Keselowski, Tyler Reddick, Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, Michael McDowell, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and Kevin Harvick. That is the 16 drivers. Obviously, I mentioned Bubba Wallace himself as well. Here's how it's obviously going to work the chase. There are 3 rounds ahead for this on this first stage as well. This is the round of 16. To advance to the round of 12, you have to win a race. If you are a playoff driver and you win a race, you advance to the round of 12 automatically. There are only 3 races to do it. So there will be maximum 3 winners and then 9 racing on points. If you obviously win, like I said, you automatically go through and you're a playoff driver. If you finish 13th to 16th by the time you get to race 3, you are eliminated from the playoff and you cannot win the championship this year. So at the moment, based on points alone, William Byron will be able to is obviously up there on playoff points because obviously the amount of points you accumulated across stage victories and overall wins this season as well. So he starts in first position, and obviously the one that is 16th is Bubba Wallace, who has his work cut out as well. But the first round of playoff this weekend begins at Darlington. It's the as well. What's the race called as well?
Cookout Southern 500.
Cookout Southern 500. That's it. So that one as well. That is the first race. We're going to Darlington for that one. It will be. It's obviously home to some historic races as well. Close finishes, and overall a very intimidating circuit if you all get it wrong for that one as well. In terms of that, so that's the first race. Then the following weekend will be at Kansas for the Casino Hollywood Casino 400, and then the third race of the playoffs will be the Bass Pro Shop Nights race at Bristol. That will be decided to get out to the round of 12. But this weekend we start at Cookout Southern 500 at Darlington Raceway as well, and then Xfinity Series as well is also this weekend at Darlington as well. And so the Truck Series has the weekend off as well, but then we'll return to Kansas the following weekend as well. The Kansas lost 200 as well.
Yeah, well, that's all I can say as well. And in that race, which took place the other way, Justin Allgaier, Simon Creed, Daniel Hemrick, Philip Kigerman, and Cole Custer there were the top 5 in that Xfinity Series race. Now it's time to talk about conversation. We're going to go to Conversation Street now. Obviously, next week, schools are going to be going back. So a lot of you schools out there are going to be going back. We're not talking about schools, though, this week. And also, congratulations, those who've got exam results. We are going to be talking about something that a lot of people have been wanting me to talk about for a long time. Now, on my show a few weeks ago, and probably about a month ago now, I spoke about non-alcoholic drinks. Now, I know a lot of people have been wanting me to mention this again, but I will now. And I'm going to talk about a new drink brand that's also on the rise as well. Madri. That is another brand that's also on the rise. But more on this now. One of the brands, Madri, is becoming very popular across our UK pubs and bars. If you don't know this brand, Madri Exceptional, it is basically a collaboration between La Sangria and Molson Coors with all the tastes of a modern European lager. It's available in Tesco and is also 4.6 ABV. That is the brand that is getting popular across UK bars. But the rise, though, of non-alcoholic drinks is becoming popular now. Now, I want to share with you guys some news that come out the other month. Now, obviously, non-alcoholic drinks are great. As I'm going away this next week, I thought we'll go over them. Dry drinkers. Those that want low alcohol beers. Now, obviously, non-alcoholic drinks, as we know, are better for you because they will stop you having hangovers. They will stop you suffering severe health issues. And also, they can alleviate any problems that you'll have. Definitely stopping hangovers and improving your lifestyle are the main big causes. But we're going to go over some of these options for low alcohol and non-alcoholic drinks. So, these are some of the ones we'd recommend for you on this show. Now, let's get up some of the best options. Now, one of the best options that I want to explain, and this is taken from the article BBC Good Food, is the following here. Guinness 0.0. If you want a non-alcoholic drink that has a bit of toffee, kind of toffee coffee flavour in it, Guinness has you covered. This is available on Amazon for 8 cans at £16. You can also get this from Tesco and other shops as well. Just to say, the Guinness 0.0 is certainly an option if you want your stout to be a good one. We also have the Bolo Dry Hot 0.0, a Guinness substitute, Scottish option. We then also have the Heineken 0.0. This was a real surprise. Fresh and clean, no sweetness or strange flavour. I've actually tried this drink, and I've tried the alcoholic version, and I actually prefer the non-alcoholic version because it just has a bit more maltiness to me. Then we've also got non-alcoholic options. Ilkley Brewery Merry Milk Stout 0.5, the Sweat Option Pilsner, and also Brewdog Nanny State. Does anyone remember COVID-19 lockdowns? Many people used to call out there. Brewdog has you covered on that one as well. We also have loads of other options. Adam's Ghost Ship, Erdlinger as well. That's some more options. There's also a bunch of other options as well on other sites. You can also go online. There's loads of other options as well. Lucky Sane also made the list as well. Estrella also have a 0.0 as well. Days Powwow. Yeah. And as I said, if you wanted one where you wanted to drink, the Madry is also a good option as well. So there's a Brewdog Loth, San Miguel Zero. I could honestly go here all night and name it. Zach, what do you make to the rise of non-alcoholic beer coming to our supermarkets near you?
You know what? As a person that doesn't really drink, I'm all for non-alcoholic stuff. The thing is about it is I'm probably not going to have it anyway, just because I'm the sort of person that doesn't like sparkly or really fizzy sort of drink. So this is not going to unfortunately change my mind on about it. But I feel like nightclubs should sell this a lot more. Like generally, if I know people are there to get drunk, and I find that ridiculous actually. Just go and listen to music and everything. You don't have to get drunk if you really don't want to. But I find, non-alcoholic stuff better for people's health. I mean, let's just think about it as well. It's better for them. And they're not going to act like idiots out in the club. So I'm all for this. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of really varieties out there, like the Nanny State one, like you mentioned as well. Personal views obviously put on a drink or anything like that. But it will be a Nanny State when their drinks get banned eventually. But yeah, I personally think as well that if you want to have a beer, you can just, without having to get drunk, then yeah, go ahead. You're all for it. You don't always have to get, you don't have to get smashed off your face all the time. How you can have suitable drinks. So these sort of options are good for those who want a beer but don't really want to get drunk at the same time. You can do both. Of those options, have a beer and not get drunk at the same time. It's perfectly possible. And if you're put off by alcohol but want a beer anyway because they're so addicted and everything like that, go down that route of non-alcoholic beer.
And also, don't forget non-alcoholic cider as well. If you're a cider drinker out there, you like non-alcoholic stuff, Copperberg, Recorderlig have you covered. You've got pears, mixed fruit, strawberry and lime, all these flavours. Just showing you a picture here. This is the Copperberg one that I've got. I actually do drink this, by the way, a lot of the time, especially when I'm going out and stuff. Here's the mixed fruit can. It's actually been sold at a lot of places right now. They actually do sell this at Wetherspoons as well. I think it's about £4 that I've paid for this. Yeah, mixed fruit, 500 ml. So there's definitely some options there. So it's a good initiative. I'm sure that a lot of people will have this. Dry January is a good time to try something like this as well. That's all we can say. Have a go. New Year's resolution. So that's all I'm going to say on that one. And one more thing before we will wrap the show up as well. Just a quick update as well on. We're going to move over now to South Essex College. I just want to quickly talk about some things that they're going to be doing as well. Enrollments are coming up as well very soon. Obviously, enrollments are finished at South Essex College. I just want to quickly go over what you can do at South Essex College. Oh, by the way, congratulations with the interns. There's also a couple of other courses that are available. You've got entry to uniform services, music and performance. They're all available online as well at the college. So if you want to study them as well. And I also want to give a special shout out as well, guys. This is before we finish up this conversation streak. I just want to give a shout out as well to a school and a college that I used to go to, Castledon. I'm sure both of us actually went there. I just want to give a shout out to Castledon School, who are going to be hosting a careers event, a careers fair on the 28th of September at Wat Tyler Country Park. I've got a little post drop here actually that I'm going to share with you guys on my show. This is the careers fair that's taking place. It will be open for, I believe, students, parents. It's also on the Essex SEND Whitford as well. I've got the post drop here for you now. It will be happening, and I'll give you all the announcements for this on here whilst I'm on now. It will take place at Wat Tyler Country Park, SS16 4UH. It's SS16 4UH. Feature guest speakers, local employers, and social opportunities as well. And actually, funnily enough, I've been invited to it as well. So watch this space, guys, for all the latest news and what I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to be talking about my job, of course. So, is that what do you make to careers fairs like this? Particularly, do you think that local awareness needs to be raised on how to get involved in other jobs and that, and help young people get into the workplace?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is one of the ways to do it. Well, career fairs are just there to sort of talk about career options, what you can potentially go into as well, and just sensing the opportunities that are out there and they're in the world, that what you can potentially do in the future as well. I mean, it's always good to meet your future employees as well, and these employers are very welcoming, by the way, when they come to these careers fairs event, because they want to see more special needs pupils involved in getting jobs. And this is one way of doing it. It just wants to make sure they be inclusive and diverse organization and employer, that they want to be able to, see the stars of the future, whether they can do it or not. And yeah, it's just an opportunity to engage, see your future options available, and look at the opportunities that are around. This creates opportunities, and certainly a careers fair hosted by Castledon is one of them, to get people into work and find your future career path.
I mean, exactly. And I think the whole point of this fair, I think that there's a lot of assets to this that are going to be so important, like meeting people. We're going to have there's going to be some special people to be talking at this event as well. You got there's going to be a lot of ways in which to spread awareness to help young people get into work. I want to see everyone excel in the workplace. I work with both of us. I work myself. I'm now in a job. I pick your shopping guys now. So it's all about trying now. And I do work at Tesco, by the way, as well. I'm going to say that. I want to make sure for every single person to have a great career and join great companies, given that, of course, there are certain issues at Wilco at the moment, and other companies as well. If you guys can get into these employers right now, and you can learn more about what we do and how, as well, South Essex College, as I mentioned a minute ago, that will probably be there as well, can help you with supporting internship course that I studied, get into the world of employment. It'll be a great necessity, a great boundary to learn. So all I'm going to say, guys, is that something like this will surely give you the magic that it will be used to help you get into the world of work. Yes, I've referenced the Craig David song, that magic, from The Time Is Now. So I'm sure you guys will know. Now it's time for our review of the press preview, the papers now. What is your vibe tonight, guys? This is the Tonight Show podcast with me, Charlie and Zach. The vibes are great on my show, and we're going to be bringing you them now with an edition of Review of the Newspapers as well. So we'll fill you in on what we're going to be saying tonight. Here we go. In the newspaper headlines tonight, we have more released right now. The Guardian goes, witnesses to be forced to testify at the Lucy Letby inquiry. Baby's family's welcome decision to put hearing on statutory footing. The iWeekend goes for no tax cuts this year. Chancellor rules out any red meat for angry Tory MPs. Funnily enough, how comes the iNewspapers printed their paper out twice? So yeah, I'm not going to go.
Never mind.
The Metro goes, we'll see you in court, cowards. That reveals Sunak reveals the Get Tough law change as well. That's all the papers released at the moment. Obviously, yesterday, one of the Daily Telegraph went with Cons faces revolt over the ULEZ expansion. Zach, what do you make of the current newspaper headlines?
Yeah, let's go over some of them. Let's go over the ones that currently be released at the moment. I'm sure there's more that come in as well. The Guardian goes for witnesses to be forced to testify at Letby inquiry. So this is, I very much welcome the fact that the government have now put the Lucy Letby inquiry on a statutory foot, which means that any witnesses that are called will have to now be forced to appear or face fines or any penalties or anything like that as well. It's a very welcome development, I have to say as well. So witnesses will now be forced to testify, give evidence according to how Lucy Letby was able to murder 7 babies. The Health Secretary announced as well. And I think it's a very welcoming move, I have to say as well. I don't know why it wasn't done like that in the first place, but it's a very welcome move. And I think this does justice for the families that have been involved. I mean, or suffered through this horrifying ordeal for them because of serial murderer Lucy Letby. It will be put on statutory footing after mounting criticism that lack the necessary power to compel people to testify under oath or force to disclose the documents. Obviously, without a statutory footing, that can't happen. You just voluntary, and people could just basically ignore appearing on the stand as well. But yeah, it's good to see that happening. I'm very much welcome that sort of news. I think it's necessary. I don't know why you didn't do it in the first place. But finally, the families are now going to get answers under oath by witnesses who have knowledge and know stuff about this, about the tragic events that had to lead to the baby deaths and Lucy Letby's whole life sentence as well. We also got a picture on the front as well of the disaster that's happening in Florida at the moment with a hurricane.
Horrible hurricane. Absolutely
hurricane Idalea. As well, 120 to 130 mile an hour winds on the sort of the northern area of Florida, as well. Very, very, very devastating storms as well. Hundreds of thousands are without power. My thoughts go out to everyone who's had to be evacuate their homes and get away from their places they love. A very horrible hurricane going on at the moment. The I goes for no tax cuts this year. So this is obviously Jeremy Hunt. Will not cut major taxes in the autumn statement, tells Treasury officials, arguing that high inflation and recession fears make a rapid economic turnaround impossible. Now, this is obviously, I suspect that Jeremy Hunt's going to lead the tax cuts to next year before we get to election mode. As well, but yeah, I mean, no tax cuts. I think it's from an economical point of view. I think it's sensible in many ways. I think as well, because if you do tax cuts now, whilst there's a high inflating economy, then that's going to cause more inflation as well. We know what happened when Liz Truss tried to do that once; it totally failed, and it was part of the reason why she ended up resigning Prime Minister after 34 days in charge. As well, the Chancellor hopes to reduce the tax burden in 2024 pre-election budget. Any tax cuts now could worsen public services, and voters have little confidence. Labour Tories attack cost of living crisis poll suggests as well. I mean, that's at the moment, no one feels exactly confident about the economy. No one feels confident about the party and how they're going to deal with the economy at the moment. It's not surprising to see that affair as well. Let's do the Metro as well before we look at the possible other papers that have been released yesterday. as well. The Times have just released their front page. I'll get back to that in a moment, but they're going to start with the Metro first of all. We'll see you in court, cowards. This is on the news that police officers will have the power to force defendants to appear at the stand when they get sentenced. If they don't, they will get a further 2 years additional in jail, up to 2 years as well. Cowardly killers and rapers will be forced to be at their sentences and face their victims and family under new laws. Prison officers will be able to use reasonable force to put them into their dock as well, and judges will be able to add 2 years onto sentences with those who refuse to show up as well. Obviously, that's from the fact that Lucy Letby failed to even turn up for her own sentencing, decided to be a coward and stay behind the bar, behind the views of the victims, and as well not show up in the eyes of them. It meant that she got sentenced, not in the sight of anybody, but behind the bars anyway for a whole life order. And I think this is again a good move as well, and I think one that should have been introduced earlier after last year, where several trials went to court, several defendants failed to turn up, and instead decided to cower away behind behind themselves and everything like that as well. And I mean, I think this rule change is welcome as well. Let's do the Times as well. Rogue police officers smacked on the spot under new powers. Chief Constable have been going to give new powers. Police will automatically be sacked if they are found guilty of gross misconduct or criminal offences under measures aimed at purging hundreds of officers who are unfit to serve. And I think that's a good change as well. Chief Constable also been handed greater powers of dismissal, and anyone who fails vetting faces being sacked immediately for the first time under zero tolerance reforms. This is what the London Commissioner, Sir Mark Rowley, has been pushing for, and I think that's very good to see that being implemented as well. Chief Constable Chris Philp, the police minister, told the Times that rogue officers are nowhere to hide under the change and being brought in after failing to be exposed by cases of prodigy officers Wayne Couzens and David Carrick as well. I mean, I don't understand. It's taken too long for these checks to be in place overall, and they should have been introduced much earlier. The signs were there and they failed to act on it. So, we still have hundreds of, potentially a couple thousand police officers that are still roguely there that shouldn't even be in job and are doing the job protecting us when they can't even protect themselves. And it's so toughening up the laws on being able to, sack people on the spot if needs to be is a welcome development as well. I think that's a reasonable change as well. And as you can see a picture of Rishi Sunak looking after alongside Cheryl Knoble, who's also living with Pratt Coburn 9, was killed in a gangland shooting last year as well. That's the photo of the Times there as well. I'm just checking if there's any other papers. No, there's not any other papers, but I'm going to go through one more actually. There's the Telegraph going with the ULEZ revolt as well. And there's, you see the picture of the one the Telegraph uses is a coffin. I imagine that people's monies and lives, maybe, I guess, as well. No to ULEZ is the sign on top of it as well. Mirror goes for family fights like hell with thousands of pounds out of pocket. No compensation for stranded passengers because there's been issues at the airport this weekend and over the bank holiday period. There's been some sort of fault that resulted in the whole system going down, and therefore the flight system going down as well. No one could fly off. No flights could take off, and it has been left with chaos at the airports as well that lead to thousands of pounds of people out of pocket thanks to flights being cancelled and being delayed. In the Daily Star, wow, that's creepy. Beer goggles don't work, but thank God the Dutch courage is still a thing. Rather disappointing news for all of us who happen to not look like Brad Pitt. Beer goggles don't work, apparently, according to the Daily Star. And looking like that, you imagine why the beer goggles don't look like that. Don't work when you have a person looking like that, quite simply as well. Yeah, it's no wonder why they don't really work at all. But yeah, that's the newspapers for the 31st of August 2023, Charlie.
And that's it for the Tonight Show podcast. Thank you so much for watching. That is the final show for August. We'll be back again early September for another edition of the show. Thank you for watching. I'm your presenter, Charlie Thomas, my co-host, Zach Chambers. Thank you so much for watching. Take care and good night.